So here we are at 38 weeks. I was hoping to do a video in between, but needless to say, the past week, well, yeah, today it would be a week, I think, since I made my last video last Thursday. A lot has happened. My sister, as I had mentioned in my last video, was at the doctor's as I was making my video. And shortly after I had made it, she had told me that the doctors basically told her that she needed to pack her bags and get to the hospital. I guess they had done a fluid testing and her fluids were low, so they wanted to induce her because she was already a week late anyhow, so they just wanted to be on the safe side. So needless to say, about 2 hours later I went to the hospital. They had started to induce her. She was about 1 to 2 centimeters by like 4 or 5, probably 6. And then it basically just kind of was at a standstill. I mean, definitely the contractions were getting harder, but she wasn't making a whole lot of progress. So at about, what was it, maybe 10 o'clock, the doctors had made the decision that they were going to take her off the Pitocin and restart everything up in the morning and let her get some sleep. So they took her off, and she still was having contractions pretty much all night long. Not super intense, but she really didn't get much sleep. So they said they were going to induce her the next morning at like 5 o'clock. So I showed up at the hospital at probably about 8, and they got things rolling. Well, to make a long story short, for I'd say a good 4 or 5 hours, she labored, really well. I mean, she was a trooper. She hadn't gotten an epidural or anything for pain up until this point, so she pretty much labored the whole day before that, and then I would say up until about 10 o'clock that morning, because she was having really bad back pains. So she got the epidural, and that worked for a decent amount of time, but then she started having really bad back pains, and I probably stayed in her room for a good 5 hours. It was quite a few hours, and just rubbed the one side of her back, because no matter what she did, the epidural, nothing took the pain away of it. So, yeah, to make a long story short, she went through all this. I mean, I can't even describe the pain she was in. It was horrible to sit there and watch there and feel so helpless. Like I said, the epidural, they would, keep giving her what they topped them off. More of the epidural, and it would work for so long, but then it was like if a doctor came in to try and check her or move her, then she started throwing up, because she was just so, I think her body was just so overly stressed at that point, because she was getting no relief, and she was in so much pain. So and I had a feeling this was the way it was kind of going, because I knew she was so exhausted at this point. By this time, it was almost 24 hours of labor, and she was still in excruciating pain. She couldn't be moved. There was no way she was going to push this baby out. So at around 8 o'clock, they had checked her, and she had made some progress. I mean, at this point, she was probably about 8 centimeters, so it's not like she wasn't dilating. She was, but then there was still cervix there, so it wasn't like she could start pushing. So what happened after that? So yeah, basically they made the decision that this baby needed to be delivered by cesarean section, which is awful news for anybody, especially somebody that's that's all she kept saying, this pain better not be in vain, and I better not be going through all this for nothing. And needless to say, she did. At 9:30, the baby was born, and it was a beautiful, healthy girl. We were all shocked, because I'd say 90% of everybody thought she was having a boy, because just the way she carried. And it was a little girl, and she was 8 pounds, 12 ounces. The cutest little thing, one of the cutest babies I've ever seen. And it turns out that the baby was what they call sunny side up. So the head was actually facing upwards. And however it was positioned, the doctor said there's no way it would have ever have fit down the birth canal. So I guess a C-section was needed. And, you know, she was in the hospital she came home, not yesterday, the day before, and she was in the hospital for 6 days. But everybody's healthy. You know, she's still a little sore, definitely really swollen from all the fluids they were pumping into her. But everybody's safe and happy and healthy, so that's all that matters. Now, on to me. I went to the doctor's today, and the doctor had told me that I am 1 to 2 centimeters at this point, which is exciting news, but then she also told me that the cervix is still way up and it's still real hard. It hasn't softened at all. So, but that's okay. We're getting there. I mean, like every once in a while, I'll feel minor contractions and I'm like, okay, bring them on. Let's get this over with. But besides that, I'm feeling great. I feel like I've been sleeping great lately. I know for a while there I was getting like shortness of breath, like not even necessarily when I was laying down to go to bed, but more or less like just standing somewhere. And I'm just assuming it was because the baby was putting pressure, maybe, I don't know, on my lungs or something like that. But, and actually from being in the hospital for as long as I was and taking care of my sister, I became dehydrated. And my feet were so swollen for like 2 days after that. And I really, for this pregnancy, I haven't had any swelling whatsoever. So it was kind of like shocking to see my feet like that and my ankles, but everything's gone down. I actually went to the doctor's 2 days ago because I had noticed, like especially if I was doing housework or whatever, that if I bent down, like kind of, I don't know, almost like you get a sensation like if you were getting your period or something like that. So because my sister was low on fluids, I started to get paranoid and I'm like, okay, I better just have them check it out and make sure my levels aren't low. Because I know with my daughter, because I was a week late, my levels were low too. So, but I went, they did a sonogram, everything's fine. So now I just wait and go back next Thursday. And yeah, I'm really excited. So, like I said, I hope to do a video in between. I know I had hoped to do it last week or somewhere in between that, but this past week has been absolutely insane, and it's the reality of everything just keeps getting closer and closer. So even today I'm like, do I want to make a video? But I'm like, no. I have to keep this going. There's only a few more weeks left, so... but all is well, and I look forward to giving you more exciting news.